Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Blight here to bring you another deck profile. And I know it's been a while since I uploaded, but the reason was I was waiting for the ban list. Not that the ban list had any influence on this particular deck, but still it's nice to know what's banned and what isn't. So, the deck I have for you today are Bujins. Now, Bujins are an archetype that is divided into two distinct types of monsters. The Bujins themselves, who are beast warriors and are like divine beings, and the Bujingi, which are beasts, winged beasts, and some other types. Their main focus is protecting the Bujins, and they're basically like tools or relics that have been transformed into animals or sentient beings. So yeah, the beast warriors are on a quest to gather all of their missing relics so they can once again become like war gods and stuff. So that's the basic premise of the playstyle. As for the deck itself, it mostly revolves around protecting your Bujin monsters, maintaining field control, going into XYZs, and then just grinding down your opponent. So without further ado, let's begin. First up, we have the most important Bujin, Bujin Yamato. Bujin Yamato is a level 4 beast warrior, light attribute, 1800 attack, meaning you can search him out easily with Tenki. And as you may or may not notice, this one is a bit brighter than the other two, and that is because this is an American print, which is a bit brighter than the European ones. And I want to take this opportunity to give a special shout out to my friend Witch Doctor, who bought this card for me. And this was during the time that Bujins were tier 1 and Yamato was like a $40 card or something. So yeah, this one is very special. So just wanted to take this opportunity to give a special shout out. So yeah. Now as for Bujin Yamato himself, his effect in this deck is amazing. And that is during each of your end phases, you can add one Bujin monster from your deck to your hand, and then you send one card from your hand to the graveyard. Now, most of the Bujingi activate either from the hand or the graveyard, so Bujin Yamato's effect is what basically sets up your plays. You can add any of the Bujingi and then just send them to the graveyard, or if you have a particular Bujingi that would prefer to be in the graveyard, you can just add one of the ones that activate from the hand and then send the one that activates from the graveyard from your hand to the graveyard. You can also use Yamato to search out the other Bujin beast warriors such as Mikauchi, and so yeah. Having 1800 attack is very good in this deck because Bujins have an infamous card called Bujingi Crane, which you will see a bit later on, which enables them to double their attack during damage calculations. So Bujin Yamato's attack effectively becomes 3600, which is pretty high, and Yamato alone can go over a lot of stuff by utilizing Crane. You play 3 of him. This is the guy you need on your first turn because he gets all the plays going, and the main focus of the deck is just to search him out as fast as possible and get him on board and begin dumping the Bujins to your graveyard and setting up the plays. So yeah. Next up we have his brother or best friend, Bujin Mikauchi. Bujin Mikauchi is also a beast warrior, level 4. They're all level 4, so I'm not just gonna skip that part. He has 1900 attack, so that's a bit more than Yamato, and his effect is when a Bujin beast warrior you control is destroyed by battle or by a card effect, you can special summon Bujin Mikauchi from your hand, so he helps you maintain the field presence. Also, if a Bujin card was sent from your hand to the graveyard while you control this face-up card, during your end phase you can add one Bujin spell or trap card from your deck to your hand. So basically his effect works in unison with Yamato's. Yamato would, for example, add a Bujingi Hare to your hand, you would dump it in the graveyard, and if you had Mikauchi at the same time, then Mikauchi's effect will also be able to activate, and you can search out a spell or trap. So having Bujin Mikauchi and Yamato on the board is very beneficial for this deck because you're basically going +2 every turn as long as you can keep them on board. So yeah, that is his main focus. Next up we have the female Bujin, Bujin Hirume. She's a bit special in the fact that you cannot normal summon her, but you can special summon her easily by banishing one Bujin monster except herself from the graveyard. She has 2000 attack, meaning she can go up to 4000 with Crane, and She's basically there to support your Exceeds plays, or if you have nothing else going, you can just easily special summon her and then attempt to go over something, or just keep your field presence. Now, Bujin Hirume also has another effect, but that one is very rarely used, and that is if she was destroyed by your opponent's card effect or by battle, and then if both players have a hand, you can activate this effect, discard one card, and then your opponent must discard one card. So yeah, that is Bujin Hirume in a nutshell. And now the last Bujin, the least useful one, but he still has a purpose in this deck, Bujin Arasuda. Bujin Arasuda has only 1600 attack, but 1900 defense. His effect is when a Bujin monster is banished from your graveyard, you can special summon him from your hand. Now remember how we said Hirume is special summoned by banishing a Bujin monster, meaning if you have both Arasuda and Hirume, you can get two monsters on board without wasting your normal summon for the turn. And that is basically what Arasuda does. He helps you go into a rank 4 Exceed monster when combined with Hirume. Also, if your opponent is able to go over one of your monsters and you were able to banish something from your graveyard, you can also special summon Arasuda during their turn to help your opponent, stop your opponent from OTKing you or something. He also has another effect, also very rarely used, and that is if a Bujin card was added to your hand except by drawing, during the end phase you can draw one card and then discard one card. Now, just like Mikazuchi, you can use Yamato's effect to trigger this effect of Arasuda, but you would only do this if you have one of the Bujingis in your hand that you want in your graveyard. So basically you draw a card and then you dump that Bujingi to your graveyard. So this is not something that you will use, but it's nice to have options. That is it for the Bujins. Now moving on to the Bujingi, the relics that protect the war gods. And first up we have the infamous Bujingi Crane. Back in the day, this was what made Bujins a tier 1 deck, because it lets you simply double your monster's attack during damage calculation. So this is their own version of Honest, not to mention you can also use Honest in this deck, so you effectively have 5 Honests in this deck. Also, this is searchable by both Yamato and one of their Exceed monsters, Bujintei Susanowo, whom we will discuss a bit later once we get to the extra decks. So yeah, basically this is something that your opponent is going to fear, and it's always going to make your opponent think twice about attacking one of your Bujins, because you never know when a Crane might be lurking in the hand, and it's always in the hand, so yeah. Also, this helps you OTK potentially if you can rack up the damage, or if you have like multiple Cranes in your hand, so yeah. Next up we have Bujingi Hare. Bujingi Hare is very useful. You banish him, target one Bujin monster you control, and then it cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effect once during that turn. So basically, if your opponent uses something like Raigeki, Dark Hole, or just goes to attack you with one of his monsters, you can just banish Bujingi Hare, and that will protect one of your Bujins one time only. So yeah, you can only use one Bujingi Hare per turn, keep that in mind. So yeah. The standard play for Bujins is you summon Yamato, you search out Bujingi Hare, and then you dump it in the graveyard, and that's going to guarantee basically that Yamato is going to survive at least one turn. Well, it's no longer a guarantee because the metagame has changed, but back in the day it was basically a surefire way of keeping Yamato for at least one more turn. Now ideally you will have Bujingi Hare and Yamato in your hand on the first turn, so then you can just search out Crane and dump Bujingi Hare into your graveyard. So yeah, or you could search out Mikazuchi and dump Bujingi Hare. So if you have Yamato, you really want to have this guy in your hand on the first turn, because it lets you get your plays faster. Next up we have Bujingi Turtle. Inglorious super rare. Gotta love Astral Packs. Bujingi Turtle is very similar to Hare, except it helps with targeting. When you're targeted by a card effect, you banish Turtle and you negate the card effect. Unfortunately, it does not destroy the card that targets you. If it did, it would have been a lot better, but still, you take what you can get. So, unlike Hare, you can use multiple Turtles per turn, so if you have two, your opponent effectively cannot target you 2 times. So yeah. Next up, Bujingi Quilin, the blade of the Bujins. You banish him from the graveyard, target one face-up card your opponent controls, and destroy it. So yeah, basically this lets you destroy continuous spells, traps, pendulum monsters, or just the monster on the field, as long as it's face up. Would have been nice if the Bujin had a way to destroy face down monsters, but nope. So yeah, one is just enough because you can recycle him, and usually you only use him once or twice, so you don't need more than one. And last but not least, Bujingi Centipede. This is a card that most players either like or dislike. I personally enjoy it. And Bujingi Centipede is basically a searchable MST. You banish it from the graveyard. I forgot to mention, you can only use the effects of Bujingis in the graveyard if you control a face-up Beast Warrior type Bujins. So if you don't have Yamato or Mikazuchi, you cannot use any of the Bujingis from the graveyard. But that is self-explanatory. So if you have Yamato or any of the others, you can just banish Centipede and then destroy one spell or trap card on the field. No, I mean that your opponent controls. You cannot destroy your own. So yeah, basically this is what I run instead of the third MST because I can just search it out whenever I want, and I like having the option. Especially now with pendulums and stuff. This is my only way to effectively get rid of Cleafort Scout or whatever. Next up we have the non-Bujin monsters, and the only non-light monster in this deck. This is Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Bear. You should all be familiar with this card. It basically goes into any deck that runs Fire Formation Tenki because Bear can use Tenki to pop a monster, and then if he inflicts battle damage you can search out another Tenki. So yeah. Then we have two Honest because almost all the monsters in this deck except Bear are light attribute, and this card is simply amazing. The Bujins have a Exceed monster that can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. So by using Honest and that Exceed monster, you can attack multiple times and retain the attack boost. Crane only works during the damage step, and once the damage step is over, your Bujin's attack will go back to normal. However, Honest is a fact, the attack boost lasts until the end of the turn. So, if Susanowo attacks something and gains the attack boost from Honest, he will retain the attack boost, and then you can just keep attacking your opponent's other monsters. So yeah, I'm really glad that Honest is a 2. It really helps out a lot of light decks, Bujins included. Not that Bujins really needed a second Honest because they have 3 cranes, but it's always nice. That is it for the monsters. Now for the spells. First up we have Bujincarnation, searchable by Bujin Mikauchi, a very cool card. If your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters, you target one of your banished Bujin monsters and one of the Bujin monsters in your graveyard, and then you special summon both of them. They cannot be used as a material for an Exceed summon, except for the Exceed summon of a Beast Warrior type monster. So basically with this you can only go into the Bujin Exceeds or something like Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Tiger King. So yeah, but mostly you'll be using it to just go into your Bujin Exceed monsters. This is a very cool card. Like I said, the Mikazuchi easily searches it out, and it helps you, it can be your top deck, your saving grace, because it lets you instantly go into an Exceed monster, and it also lets you recycle one of your banished Bujingis. So if you banished Bujingi Hare earlier during the duel, you can special summon him back with Bujincarnation, and then when he's detached as a material for the Exceed monster, you can reuse him again from the graveyard, which is pretty cool. Next up, like I said, we want to get Yamato into our hand on the first turn as fast as possible, and that is why we use Pot of Duality. Now, Bujins are one of those decks that really don't rely too much on special summons. They can work just fine by normal summoning, so Pot of Duality doesn't hinder you too much. What this does is you excavate or reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, choose one, add it to your hand, and then shuffle the other ones back into the deck. But if you use this, you can no longer special summon for the during that turn. So yeah, some people run 3. I find 2 just to be enough because I really don't have any space to fit a third one in. So we have 3 Tenkis that serve the same purpose, basically letting you search out any of the Bujins. Also, you can search out Bear and then do the famous Tenki Bear pop. Not too much to say about Tenki. Also, it gives your Beast Warriors 100 attack boost, which is always nice, meaning that Mikazuchi would be at 2000, Yamato is 1900, and so on. Next up, a very cool card, Kaiser Colosseum. Now, this is a continuous spell, and this is how it works. If you control a monster, your opponent cannot summon monsters if the number would exceed the monsters you have on your side of the field. So if you have Yamato, your opponent can basically only summon one monster. And this can be very hindering to a lot of decks. Also, like I said, with the Bujingis in the graveyard, it can be quite troublesome to remove Yamato from the field, and therefore Kaiser Colosseum will remain, at least for a couple of turns, stopping your opponent's Exceed plays, synchros, and such. Now, there's a much better option for the Bujins, and that is the newer trap card called Lose One Turn. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten a copy yet because it's an expensive card, but if I did, I would replace these two Kaiser Colosseums with Lose One Turn. Now, what Lose One Turn does is basically when a monster is special summoned, its effects are negated that turn, and it's switched to defense position. And this can be absolutely devastating for any decks such as Infernoids, Necros, you name it, it's just going to stop them right in their tracks. So, if you have Lose One Turn, feel free to switch it out with Kaiser Colosseum. If not, this is still a good strategy and can help you gain the upper hand on your opponent. Next we have double MST to get rid of any and all back row. Like I said, Bujingi Centipede serves the purpose of the third MST, so you can afford to run two. Raigeki to just clear away your opponent's monsters. Book of Moon to help stop your opponent's Exceed summons, synchros, flip some of their monsters face down so you can get rid of them more easily. The card of 1,000 uses. Next up we have Soul Charge, and this card, I really love this card in Bujins because you only need to pay 2,000 to return Yamato and Mikazuchi, and you have your entire plays going, because Yamato can then dump a Hare in the graveyard, and then Mikazuchi can just search out one of your Bujincarnations. Also, you can just bring back Yamato or any of the other Bujins, and you will still have a force to be reckoned with. So Soul Charge is really good in this deck because you don't have to pay too many life points to get back in the game. That was it for the spells, and now we have some traps. The only Bujin trap that I run, Bujin Regalia, the sword. It has a lot of uses actually. Basically, it has two effects. One is return one of your banished Bujingi monsters. Return one of your banished Bujin monsters from your banished zone to your graveyard, or return one of your Bujin monsters from your graveyard to your hand. Now, this lets you recycle stuff like Bujingis that are banished. You can also add back a destroyed Yamato back into your hand. Or you can do a very interesting play and let your opponent attack you, activate this, return one of your cranes from the graveyard back to your hand, and then since your opponent cannot stop your attack, you can then proceed to use the crane you just added during damage calculations. So yeah, also this is searchable by Bujin Mikazuchi. And then we have the staples, Solemn Warning to negate summons, Bottomless Trap Hole, destroy and banish all monsters with 1500 or more attack points, Compulsory, get rid of synchros and exceeds, Torrential Tribute, blow up the field. Also, you can afford to use this even when you have monsters because you have Bujingi Hare, so he can save your exceed monsters or Yamato. The Bujins also have their own version of Lead Yoke, if you know what battling boxers do. They have a monster that protects Bujins from destruction by detaching the Exceed's material. He can also be used in conjunction with Torrential Tribute. So this card is very easy to... it easily goes live in this deck, so to say. And then we have the one Vanity's Emptiness. Like I said, the Bujins can afford not to special summon, and what's interesting about Vanity's Emptiness is in this deck is that you can easily keep it on board because Yamato adds a card to your hand, and then you have to send a card from your hand to your graveyard. Meaning you do not send a card from your field or your deck to the graveyard, and therefore Vanity's Emptiness will remain on the field. And then Yamato will be difficult to get rid of because of all the Bujingis in your graveyard. So yeah, that is it for the main deck, and now the extra deck. With Bujins, you'll mostly be playing their Exceed monsters, and the main Exceed monster is Bujintei Susanowo, or Susanoo, however you want to pronounce it. Basically, he is the Lavalval chain of this deck. You detach one Exceed material, and then you can either send one Bujin from your deck to your graveyard, or add one Bujin from your deck to your hand. So basically, you have both options if you want to search out Yamato, Hirume, Arasuda and get more plays going, or if you want to protect Susanowo and then just dump some of the Bujingis, you can also search out Crane and then do a massive 4800 attack. Also, Bujintei Susanowo can attack all of your opponent's monsters on the field once each, which is an amazing ability. So if you have multiple Cranes and Honests in your hand, you can rack up the damage very easily and finish out the game right there. We have Bujintei Kagutsuchi. That's the one I mentioned earlier. His effect is the same as Lead Yoke, and that is if a Bujin monster would be destroyed, you can detach one Exceed material from this card instead of destroying one of those monsters. He can also use it on himself. And his other effect is when he's Exceed summoned, you get to mill 5 cards, and then he gains 100 attack for each Bujin card sent to the graveyard this way. Also, unlike Bujin Yamato, which requires 2 level 4 Bujin monsters, this one requires 2 level 4 Beast Warrior type monsters, so you can also use Bear to go into Kagutsuchi, which is nice because Bear is not going to stick around on the field too long, and if you have the option, you can just Exceed into this guy. Then the last Bujintei Tsukuyomi, one that's seldom used but still has its purpose. Basically requires 2 light monsters, 1800 attack, 2300 defense. His effect is you detach one material, send your entire hand to the graveyard, minimum 1, and then you draw 2 cards. So basically you would only use this if you have something like a Bujingi or 2 in your hand, you really want them in your graveyard. Just use this, dump them in the graveyard, and you get to draw 2 new fresh cards. The other effect that he has is if he's sent to the graveyard from the field, while he has Exceed material, you get to special summon Bujin Beast Warriors from your graveyard up to the number of Exceed materials Bujintei Tsukuyomi had when he left the field. Like I said, not something you use too often, but nice to have options. And the final one, Bujinki Amaterasu, because she's a warrior princess, she's not like warrior goddess, she's not a god, so she's Bujinki instead of Bujintei. She requires 3 level 4 monsters, very difficult to summon, and I almost never go into her, but like I said, I think she deserves a spot in this deck. Her effect is actually a quick effect. If it's your turn, detach one XYZ material to special summon one of your banished level 4 or lower monsters. And if it's your opponent's turn, you get to add one of your banished level 4 or lower monsters back into your hand. So with her, you can special summon any of the banished monsters like Yamato or Susanoo or whatever you have banished. And then during your opponent's turn, you could grab a banished Crane and add it to your hand. She also has the highest attack among all the Bujin Exceed monsters at 2600, meaning she goes up to 52 with the Cranes. So yeah, that's a force to be reckoned with. But sadly, she does not see too much play. However, with the recent set that was released in the OCG, the Bujins have a new card. It's a Pendulum monster that allows you to switch between the Exceed monsters. So that's probably going to make Bujinki Amaterasu more playable if such a play is required, because we don't know what the future holds for the Bujins. Maybe they'll get some more Bujingis and stuff. So yeah. Now I'm babbling on. Moving on to the other rank 4s, we have one Photon Papilloperative. This card was very popular back in the day, but nowadays this is the only deck I use it in. And mostly if my opponent has a face down monster such as Shadow Falco, I would flip it up with Papilloperative, and then my Bujintei Susanowo could attack and use Crane and deal massive damage. So that is basically why I use Papilloperative. Also, it's useful against the cards that cannot be destroyed, such as Marshmallow and stuff. Diamond Dire Wolf, because you have a lot of beasts, Wing Beast, Beast Warriors. There's a play that you can do if you have this and one of your Bujins. You can target a Bujin and a card your opponent controls, and then you can use Bujingi Hare's effect to save the Bujin from being destroyed. And then if Diamond Dire Wolf survives for one more turn, you get to pop another card. So that's kind of useful, I guess. Ragna Zero helps you destroy all of your opponent's monsters that have attack that differs from their original attack. So this is very useful against Yosenju and stuff like that, because they run Tenkis and stuff. Also, this is a card that's gonna be a nightmare if you have Tenkis, because she can easily destroy you. It's a quick effect. And if you just manage to destroy a monster, you get to draw a card, which is nice, adding some draw power to this deck. Then we have Constellar Omega, requires 2 level 4 light monsters, can make himself immune to all spells and traps for 1 turn. Tiger King, we run Bear, we run Tenki, so why not Tiger King? He can prove to be useful because he effectively becomes a skill drain for anything that is not Beast Warrior. Star Liege Paladynamo helps you get over some big monsters, also adds some draw power because if he's destroyed you get to draw a card, so that's always nice. Gaga Cowboy for game, Abyss Dweller to stop graveyard shenanigans, Silent Honor Arc because it's an arc, and Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon, basically a filler, but until I get some better rank 4s, he's there to just be a massive beatstick. So yeah, that is it for the Bujins. What I can say about this deck is it's very easy to use. If you're a beginner and you're looking for a deck that's reasonably powerful, but not too difficult to use, then look no further than Bujins, because after a few duels you will be a Bujin master. So yeah, I really enjoy this deck because the plays are quite fun. It's definitely not a top tier deck anymore, but that should never stop you from using a deck that you like. Also, they seem to be getting new support, so I'm very excited about that. I'm hoping to see more Pendulum monsters and maybe even a new Bujin Exceed monster, because in their storyline you can tell it's not finished. Bujinki Amaterasu is like a corrupted evil monster, which you can tell it looks kind of menacing. So maybe we'll get like a pure version of Amaterasu or something, I don't know, with a better effect. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile. Stick around for more Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. If you have any suggestions, comments, questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section, and I will reply to you as soon as possible. Bye-bye.